One, two, three. Welcome to the Mr. Phelps Show! Welcome to the Mr. Phelps Show. Thank you all, thank you all. Hear all that clapping. I hear it on the set every day. Every day I come here early. Thank you all and welcome to the Mr. Phelps Show with coffee. Thank you everyone. Anyway, just want to get this show underway. We're in for a big surprise today. Today we're going to talk about argumentative writing. We've been writing a lot of argument and talking about a lot of argument, ethos, pathos, logos, and now we're finally going to put it all together. Excellent, excellent. So, we've got a couple things coming up for you, more than a couple. I'll get right to the chase, our schedule for the day. One, we're going to go over a PowerPoint that I shared with you much earlier about argumentative writing, what the components of argumentative writing are, and how you make an essay out of argumentative writing. So that PowerPoint we will go over and dissect argumentative writing, and then we're going to go over a debate between the Lorax and Onceler. Like, I'm so excited for this. I'm literally going to have the Onceler and the Lorax on my set to have a debate right here about conservation and deforestation. This topic works well with argumentative writing, and that's exactly why we're having it. Any case, we're going to have a debate, and somewhere in between that debate, before or after, maybe during, we'll see how it works. We're going to go over some pieces that build for an argumentative essay, okay? So it's kind of hard to explain this on the get-go, but we're going to look at some graphic organizers, some different things. We'll use deforestation and conservation as an example to fill those out, looking at sources, looking at these different ways of arguing, counter-argument, two sides to the coin type of argument. We'll look at all that either before, during, somewhere around the debate. It'll come. Excellent, excellent. So then after that, we're going to have a little fun here and there. We'll have some commercials that come up, and we'll have some rapping of the Lorax, the story of the Lorax, coming right up from the Cat in the Hat. Some of you may have already heard that from one of my previous videos. If not, you're in for a big surprise here. You know, I don't know that he outdoes Lil Phelps, or if it's really Lil Phelps in a Cat in the Hat costume. I don't know, but he's going to come here and share some raps with us about the Lorax, where we focus our argument of conservation and deforestation. Excellent, excellent. So that's just about our show for today. There might be a couple other surprises that pop up, but for the most part, that's where we are. Oh, and one other thing, we got the weather report. So without further ado, I'll go to our friendly meteorologist, Mr. Phelps, for a weather report. Hello everyone, it's Mr. Phelps. I'm here with today's weather report. You can hear the dogs chirping in the distance. You can hear the songs of the birds and the swami swans. Well, today I'm going to go over today's weather, and what a great day it is. The grass is green and the pond is wet and the clouds are clean, and the song of the swami swans rings out in space. This morning, it is a glorious place. And the trees, the truffula trees, the bright colored tufts of the truffula trees, mile after mile in the fresh morning breeze, and under the trees I see brown barbaloots frisking about in their barbaloot suits as they play in the shade and eat truffula fruits. From the rippleless pond comes the comfortable sound of humming fish humming while splashing around. But those trees, those truffula trees, the touch of their tufts are much softer than silk, and they have the sweet smell of fresh butterfly milk. Oh, what a beautiful day it is. I wish every day could be like this. Thank you for today's weather report. Excellent, excellent. Whether you know that or not, that's only part one of our weather report for today. So we're going to have another weather report later on today. It's just a double weather report day, so tune in for that. Excellent. So now, without further ado, I'm going to show you the PowerPoint for argumentative writing. So we'll take a look at that, go through, look at the pieces, and that should be good. You had notes on this earlier, and now we're going to review them since we're coming to the essay stage where we're writing the essay. So argumentative writing. What is an argument? An argument is basically, argumentative writing is basically taking a stand on an issue, uses persuasive language to convince the reader to see their point of view, and uses evidence to support one's reasoning. Pretty straightforward. Where do we see arguments? Everywhere. School, society, environment, political arguments, technology. There's also historical debates about whether somebody had accomplished something or whether it was in question. You know, leisure, a lot of things with video games. Do video games cause violence? And random, what's the best pizza topping? So we see arguments everywhere. You know, we argue with people face to face. We argue with people online with social media. And writing is one of the major forms where argument can be done. So people who are good at arguing need to realize there are two sides to every coin. You can either agree, disagree, or agree to disagree, or however you want to say it. But one thing is for sure, you really need to look at both sides and look at the statistics and data that is set and make your decision based off that. So some issues could be school uniforms. Think of both sides. Yes, they give order, might cause less anxiety. No, you know, you take away individualism and it still could cause less anxiety for no, too. You could argue both ways for that. Soda in school, yes, free choice. No, it's bad choice, sugar, high of sugar. So those are just two examples. There's plenty more. So I'm just going to skip that slide. It was just a joke about taking away soda from schools. So just think about this. Walking in another's shoes, okay? Think of empathy. How is that person? How do they live their life? How do they think about things differently than you do? So a great argument has both sides in mind. Think about walking in someone else's shoes, a different viewpoint. It's not about being right. It's about convincing the other side to join you. Parts of an argument. So the biggest part of the argument is the claim. Okay, this is also the thesis of your essay. So claim, thesis, that's what we've called it. The author's statement of a specific position. So this is what you're arguing. Unlike
expository, explanatory writing, the claim is pretty easy in argument because you don't have to make a claim or a statement. Your claim is what you believe, what you're arguing. That's your claim. Simple as that. Your position in the argument. Fact, something that can be proven. Opinion, a person's judgment or belief. It may be supported by facts, but it cannot be proven. As a writer of argument, you need to have facts and opinions. You obviously can't take a stance if you don't have an opinion, but you also can't defend that opinion if you don't have facts. So they kind of go hand in hand. Then, of course, you have point of view, one's attitudes, beliefs, and feelings. This matters because, like we said, putting yourself in other people's shoes. Got to be able to do that to understand both sides of the argument. So we actually had a PowerPoint on this previously. Ethos, pathos, logos, or appeal to ethics, appeal to emotion, appeal to logic. You can watch my other presentation or my other video on the appeals to get a better detail, but basically appeal to ethics is using authority or credibility of the persuader, be a notable or experienced figure in the field, or a popular celebrity. Emotion would be using emotion, pathos, convincing an argument by creating an emotional response to a plea or a convincing story. I always think anecdotes with that, personal story. An appeal to logic, using facts, reason, and figures. Pretty straightforward. In argument, you're always going to see a lot of facts, okay? When you develop a hook for your essay, these can be front and center. I always say facts and questions are always good to start for an argument essay, but some people might want to hit it off the bat with emotion, use pathos with an anecdote to start your essay in the beginning to grab their attention. But logic and emotion are very, very good for doing that. All right, so this is, I did a past lesson on ethos, pathos, logos. So you can look at that one, or you can look at my new video on that. So argument fallacies. So these are just ways in which argument is overlooked or not appropriately looked at. They're making conclusions, jumping to conclusions when they don't know for sure. So for example, bias. Some arguments can have an unfair preference for or against an idea, person, or group. I always like to think of sports teams. If you like a sports team, you might be more willing to side with that sports team without looking at the reasons. And you don't want that to happen. You want to look at all the reasons on the table and make the best argument based on the facts you have, not your affiliation with a team. Okay? Overgeneralization. This is jumping to conclusions, making a claim based on evidence that is just too small. So if you look here, every time I've been to Florida, the weather has been rainy. It's always raining in Florida. This person concluded that it always rains in Florida, even though they've been there so many times and it's always rained, they haven't been there when it's sunny. So one thing to keep in mind is be careful with absolutes like always and never, because if you use those words, you better be right. If somebody can prove you wrong, it takes away from your credibility. Then you have some others. The slippery slope. It's an argument that suggests taking a minor action will lead to major and sometimes ludicrous consequences. This one's kind of hard to understand, but basically it's right here. School is killing us. Textbooks are made from paper. Paper are made from trees. We need trees for oxygen. Thus, school is killing us. So see how it's just kind of illogical? They threw a bunch of ideas there, but they don't all really connect. So you just have to be careful when you make an argument that you have one part that leads to another. Then of course there's assumptions, which is kind of just jumping to conclusion. You assume something to be the case without proof. So these don't accurately show the other side. That's why they don't really work. Your argument should be reflective of both sides, and it should have facts, and your opinion should tie to those facts and make sure they're logical facts that support the argument. So don't jump to conclusions. So don't be that coyote, okay? Be the roadrunner. He's ahead of the game. So every good argument has a counterargument. So what is a counterargument? A counterargument is an argument or set of reasons put forward to oppose an idea or theory developed in another argument. Okay? So it sounds a bit mind-boggling, but let's look at an example. A child may argue for a dog. The parents remind the child that his sister is allergic to dogs. The boy uses the counterargument that she has been around some dogs without any problems. He is ready for each argument against the dog, perhaps stating that there are breeds of dogs that are hypoallergenic. Now, I'm not a scientist. I wouldn't be able to tell you what that means, but judging by the context, it sounds like you can find a dog that his sister's not going to be allergic to. So you can see how that boy recognized the other side. He recognized his sister's allergy, but he tried to prove it in a way that it wouldn't be an issue. So here are some transition words you can use. It's important to use transition words, especially ones that go with contrast or the other side. Really helpful for writing and transitioning your paragraphs. So for writing a counterargument, these are the key rules. You identify the opposing argument. You respond to the argument by finding reasons it doesn't work, or reasons it's incomplete, weak, unsound, or illogical. And you provide examples or evidence to show why the opposing argument is unsound, incomplete, or illogical. We've been practicing with this and we'll continue to practice in the writing stage. So now you put it all together. And if you notice, I have some outlines that are in the worksheets on this video. I go over examples where I start filling out the outline. I don't do it completely. But you want to always remember the rules for intros and conclusions that we went over for explanatory writing, because they're basically the same, except your claim is your argument. So those are the same. And then you have each paragraph as an argument and a counter-argument if you have one, kind of worked in there.
Excellent. So now you get a feel for argumentative writing, the purposes, how it's structured, that type of deal. Now we're really ready to have that debate. So I'm going to have a quick message here, a quick commercial break, and then after that we're going to get right to the chase. I'm going to be your host for the debate, and we're going to have the Lorax and Onceler here. I'm going to give up my couch for one of the candidates on the debate, and you will see me kind of amongst them as we have the debate. So without further ado, let's get going. It's me and my trusty battle axe from the Revolutionary War. We're going to go cut down some cherry trees. You bet.
Here we see George Washington cutting down his infamous cherry tree. So many trees, so little time. George, you might be a great president, but you're a poor tree cutter. Put away that lousy axe.
Who would have thought cutting down trees is so hard? I can't keep this up.
You shouldn't have to do this all by yourself. Call the Onceler Tree Cutters. They're a local tree cutting business run by Onceler himself, the legendary tree cutter. Using cutting-edge technology, they chop trees to the fullest, so you don't have to. No more 18th century axes. They'll use chainsaws, machines, and hyperactively trained beavers, which get the job done far faster and cut double, triple, quadruple the amount of trees than you do with that lousy axe. That's how they make needs, which everyone needs. Would you believe it?
So I can go back to being a president and not have to worry about cutting all these cherry trees? Yippee!
That's right, George. Call the Onceler Tree Cutting Service now, and they'll chop your trees for a modest price. There's no one else I would recommend. Call Onceler Tree Cutting Service at 1-800-TREES-TO-SNEEZE and have the experts do the work for you. Onceler's Tree Cutting Service. Cutting down trees because everyone needs sneeze.
Today we are going to have a friendly debate between the legendary Lorax and the successful businessman Onceler. If you remember the tale of the Lorax, the Onceler is the one who chopped down all the trees to build his Sneed factory, polluting the land, causing all the animals and life to leave and find a new home, sadly. Later, when all the trees were gone and the money ran out, he later regretted his decision. Today, we look at the larger debate of conservation and deforestation by hearing from both sides. So, obviously, the Lorax will support conservation and the Onceler will support deforestation. I'm going to be your host for today's debate. I'm going to ask the questions and they're going to take turns answering and fielding their positions. It's your job as the viewer to decide which position you feel is right. Alright, it's time for the debate. I think I hear someone coming right now. Welcome, Mr. Lorax. Please, take a seat here. We'd love to hear from you.
Thank you, everyone. I am the Lorax. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Thank you, everybody. I speak for the trees. Thank you, thank you.
You know, that's an absurd outfit. You know, I know we have Onceler coming here. His nickname is Onesie, but I'm almost tempted to call you Onesie. I mean, that's like pajamas right there, buddy. What's going on there?
Hello, I am the Lorax. I speak for the trees. I know, I look like I'm dressed in pajamas, but no, I'm the Lorax. I'm orange, I'm brown,
Anyway, Mr. Lorax, tell me about yourself.
I'm the Lorax. I speak for the trees, and I speak for the unicorns and the barbaloots and the swanny swans who want to live a peaceful life in the forest that this crooked Onceler man wants to chop down.
That actually sounds a bit depressing, doesn't it? Like, I can feel for you. Like, I feel a lot of pathos or emotion towards this situation, so I get where you're coming from, Lorax. I really do. I think I need more coffee.
When there's truffula trees, we're happy, but not when they're made into shirts. It's been sad moving from place to place, but that's how we survive. The barbaloots, the swanny swans, and the fish, and everyone else. I'm the one who watches over them and promises that we will have land for them to live.
So basically, you're a migrant furball. I mean, you kind of look like one, no offense.
That's not funny. I'm not a migrant furball.
I was only kidding, Mr. Lorax. Take a joke, man, you know? Take a joke. We're glad to have you here, and hopefully you can convince us about conservation.
Well, certainly. As I said, I speak for the trees, and I speak highly for the trees.
Anyway, I think I hear your friend, or shall I call him mortal enemy, coming, Mr. Onceler. That's a big ruckus I hear in the background.
My goodness, what is that boisterous noise? It sounds terrible. It sounds like, ugh, it's hurting my ears so badly. Hello, everyone. I'm Onceler, Mr. Onceler, though some may call me Onesie. And I'm here to tell you why deforestation is a great thing that can make businesses grow. Vroom, vroom.
Please, Mr. Onceler, please take a seat. Please, we're glad to have you.
Vroom, vroom. I better put this down. Anyway, I want to thank you for having me on the Mr. Phelps show and having this debate with the Lorax over here.
Tell me about your business, you know, why you're here. We love to hear about your business. I mean, after all, that's why you're on this set. we know all too well.
Well, you know, Mr. Phelps, I was an up-and-budding entrepreneur. I invented the thneed. Okay, so I had to cut down a lot of trees, and well, it worked. I made a lot of money. I merchandised, and thneeds are big now. The only problem is now there's less trees to make thneeds with, so, you know, makes it a little tougher.
A thneed?
Yeah, you know, a thneed's a fine something that everyone needs. It's a shirt, it's a sock, it's a glove, it's a hat, but more importantly, it has other uses far beyond that. You can use them for carpets, for pillows, for sheets, or curtains, or covers, or bicycle seats. And that's just how they are.
Vroom, vroom. Oh, I see. Well, you know, have you started making coffee mugs yet? Because I think I could invest in that. We here love our coffee on the Mr. Phelps Show.
Funny you mentioned that. I mean, coffee wasn't on my list, but I will definitely add it now. Good idea.
Excellent, excellent. Well, it's obvious you're both very resourceful in your own ways, so I know we're going to have a great debate among us. I mean, you're strong for conservation and you're strong for deforestation, but you guys seem a little bit friendly too, whether you call it that or not. I don't know, but you know, we're hoping to have a friendly debate because remember, every good debate, you have to look at both sides. If you don't look at both sides, then it's not really a debate. It's more of a shouting contest, and that's not what we're here to do. Anyway, let us get started. I'm going to look through my notes here, and I'm going to ask the questions. You'll both respond to the questions and can respond to each other. I'll let you guys kind of take over the debate until it gets a little heated, you know? That's kind of how we do things here. But remember, it's always good to have a counter-argument because counter-argument, sometimes most of the time, that's even stronger than your actual argument. So make sure to have one, you know, look at that other side and be able to deflate it. So here's your first question. What do we need more, trees or thneeds? Onceler, you go first. Well, it's obvious, isn't it? We need thneeds so we can make fine things that everybody needs. Clothes, money. We need all these things, and we get those from trees. So, I'm sorry, but, you know, I respect keeping some of the trees, but they gotta go when it comes to big business and money. This man is wrong. Yes, we need trees. I mean, look what happened to the swanny swans, the fish, the barbaloots. Look at all the smog and schluck or whatever it's called. Our world dies when you cut down trees, and all just for a thneed. You can make those without truffula trees, you know. Let's use plastic instead of trees. And the air, you can't recreate it. Onceler, it's not the same as the fresh air we breathe every day. Not everyone shares it either. Air is air, no matter where we get it. And honestly, Lorax, your animal friends have tons of forests they can migrate to and live in. You know, you're mad at me about one forest, but air is air, no matter where we get it. And Lorax, honestly, there are tons of forests you can go and live in. Onceler, that doesn't mean you have to cut down every single tree. Mr. Phelps, he went on a rampage. He cut down every tree in the forest and he kicked us out. He's destroying our ecosystem. And honestly, you know, what's that to show for? He ran out of trees for his own business. But we won't have to worry. You know, if we cut down trees, us who own the businesses are going to be richer. You know, we can rebuild ecosystems. We can build these up to help you guys out if we cut down trees. You know, it'll help our businesses, but we can then pay for things to have them built that will help you and your friends, you know, live in a new forest. We don't need any more machines. Machines make it worse because they take down our trees faster than ever. And this man didn't even have the courtesy to replant even one seed back. Mr. Phelps, he's ruined the forest. And he may have his rights, but you know what? He's managed the forest so poorly that he can't even make it run for his business now. All right. I've had my coffee and now I'm ready to give my inputs. You know, we're definitely getting somewhere. We got a nice debate brewing here, but we need to move on. So hold those thoughts. You know, we don't want to get carried away on one question because we got more coming. So, your next question. Is it fair to the animals to move from forest to forest? Lorax, you go first on this one.
Mr. Phelps, is it fair that my animals and my friends have to move from place to place and not live in the forest that we've lived at and loved? Is that fair?
Of course you would say that, but us builders and us entrepreneurs, we need to adapt too. We move from forest to forest to get trees. It's not just the animals, it's us builders. We adapt as well.
That's only because you cut down every single tree.
It's not just that. Different forests have different trees, different resources. Every place is different. So, you know, it's not like one forest fits all for builders either.
Well, Mr. Onceler, don't fix what you ain't broke.
Look, animals migrate naturally. They know how to move from place to place.
That's not the point. What if I created a hurricane and I destroyed your home? How would you feel if your home was destroyed? That's what you're doing to us. That's what you're doing to our creatures. The creatures of the forest. How would you like it if it was done to you, Onceler?
Mr. Lorax, would you really destroy my home? I mean, do you know how cruel it is what you're saying? Honestly, that's so foolish. And believe it or not, it's not the same as when we cut down trees for business. You're doing this out of malice. You're saying you'll just knock my house down because I knocked yours down. I do it for business.
How is it not the same? You're a very selfish man, Onceler. You cut down all these trees for your business, and you didn't think about us, only your customers who would buy. You're very selfish.
So you're calling me selfish? All right, let's break it up. It's getting carried away, it's getting heated. All right, so we got to move to the next question. Here we go. There are several sources that claim cutting down too many trees can lead to a catastrophe where carbon dioxide develops in the air, and this in turn causes climate change. What is the validity of this? What do you guys think? Onceler, you go. Even if what he says is true, the fact of the matter is Sneedville has everything we need, and it's built on technology. We don't need trees when we have everything we need in Sneedville.
You can survive on technology, but us animals, we can't. We need the forests, we need the trees, we need the ecosystem, we need the good water that we can drink from. We need all these wonderful things that you take away with technology.
Don't worry, Lorax. I told you, even as mean as you're being to me, I will build you a home for you and your friends with all those trees we cut down. That I can promise you.
You want me to live in a world with fake trees and fake air and fake everything around me? You don't understand, Onceler. We don't live based off of fake things. We live based off the resources that are there and provided to us, the very ones that you destroy.
Let's answer the question. Global climate change? I'm not worried. Whatever he's going to say about climate change, I mean, we take down one forest and that's going to cause global climate change. I don't buy it.
Whether it's climate change or it's just hurting the environment, we don't need smogulous smog and sloppity slop and goobulous glue that you so create. I mean, that's destroying the environment, the beautiful world that we know and love. All the color of the world will be sucked out and it will be gone. You'll be looking at a very filthy place. Is that what you really want, Onceler? Our world was meant to be a beautiful place, and you're destroying it.
He's so dramatic. I've never seen it that bad before.
Oh yeah, Mr. Onceler? Well, if you want to hear how global climate change really works, then I'm going to call my friend, Mr. Einstein. Okay? Mr. Einstein is a scientist, and he knows how nature works. So, I can give him to tell you all the evidence. I'm putting him on the phone now.
Einstein, the science guy. Einstein, 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 Einstein. Einstein the science guy. E equals mc squared. Einstein, 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 Einstein the science guy. Einstein. Science rules.
Mr. Einstein, we are in a huge debate and I need your input. We need to know how global climate change works. We're talking about how cutting down trees is bad for the environment. And I need you to support me on this. Please, please, please explain how if we cut down all the trees, how that would be detrimental to our world.
Hello everyone, I am Einstein the Science Guy and I welcome you to my segment of this show. The Lorax has called upon me to talk about global climate change, and I am here to tell you the facts, straight from my scientific research. Lorax, my friend, carbon dioxide, once it's released, it will go into the air, it will linger there, and it'll make the sun stronger. But not the kind of sun we know, more like a sun hiding behind haze, a disgusting sun. And then we'll see the water levels rise, smog develop, and many plants and animals will die, become extinct, never to be seen again. And water levels will raise 20% in the next 20 years if we continue, and it will keep on chipping away at our land and destroying the animals. It would be a huge tragedy among us. Trees aren't the only culprits, cutting down trees of course, though if they're all gone, carbon dioxide will double into the air and oxygen will weaken, causing more smog and higher water levels. It's a dangerous thing. It's a dangerous world, Lorax, and we need to be careful. Let's stop deforestation and let's conserve our land so we save it and protect ourselves from global climate change. I thank you for watching my segment and I bring it back to you, Lorax. Thank you.
So, as you can see, Onceler and Mr. Phelps, cutting down the trees harms our environment.
Alright, I get to phone a friend too, and I know just who to call. Mr. J. Gatsby, businessman from West Egg. Let's get him on the line. I better take this call. Hello?
Hello, Mr. Gatsby.
Oh, hello, Onceler. What's happening?
We're on the set of the Mr. Phelps show, having a debate on conservation and deforestation, and I need your help. I need you to fill me in on why deforestation is a great thing for business. I'll cut right to the chase. Can you tell me where you get your money from?
Well, you know, I got it from gambling, playing some games. Some people say bootlegging, but I'm really not supposed to tell you that, so... Anyway, it's a secret.
Well, see, if we save the trees and we cut down less trees, wouldn't you say that would be less money that goes into your pocket, or less money that you can gamble with, and less money in the entire world, if you really think about it?
Absolutely. It's not just me. I know several people who need the money, and if they don't have the trees, they don't have the money to run their businesses and run the infrastructure. It's a shame. There's more to trees than just the colors you see in autumn or on, you know, different types of trees. There's a lot more to trees than that. It's a known fact that there were 20,000 trees cut down each year, and if you take away 20% of that, business revenue would plummet about 30%. So, you know, we can't live on that, especially in West Egg, where, you know, we're the new rich and we have to play around with the old rich in East Egg. We just don't have time for that.
Thank you, Mr. Gatsby. It's apparent that trees are not only essential for money, but they're essential for many other resources that help businesses, such as buildings and all these other things. Like, trees are that essential. And if we just let them all live there, then and don't take them down, and we use other things besides cutting down trees, it won't cut it. So I thank you, Mr. Gatsby. This is crucial information.
You're welcome. Have a good day, Mr. Onceler. I really think that, you know, deforestation is the way to go. I know conservation is super important. We know that, but there comes a time and place when you need the money, you need the trees for your business, and you got to do what you got to do. Thank you. Over and out. Talk to you later. Bye.
You see, Mr. Phelps, the Lorax claims that it will be a tragedy if
we cut down trees because it will lead to global climate change. But I say it's a tragedy if we leave all those trees there and we can't develop business and commerce and things that will help businesses grow, that helps an economy grow. I say that is a bad thing. Well, guys, it's always good to find some kind of compromise, all right? It's always good. I know you don't want that because you feel so strongly about your positions. But it's great to find compromise. And now, maybe you can find that compromise, because right now we're ready for your concluding statements. So, we got our final remarks. So, Lorax, you go first.
Alright, here's my concluding statements. Alright, I know Mr. Onceler here needs to run his business, and I know he's trying to go about it in a good way, but he's done a terrible job, and he's made a terrible mistake cutting down our forests. And that business is business, that's just crap. We know business is business, but life is also life. And what he's taking away from us is a happy, healthy forest. Conservation is essential for keeping our world a happy, healthy, and colorful place. Without trees, we get smog, we get sloppity slop, we get dark skies, and the sun never peeks over, it's covered by haze. And honestly, what's the point of having money if you can't enjoy it in an ugly world where the sun doesn't come out? Think about that, Onceler. You can't buy sunlight. There's no way scientifically you can imitate sunlight and the sun rays that come. Money can buy stuff, but it can't buy happiness. And that's what you're trying to do, and that's what you're trying to tell us because you want to make more for your business. But you really don't see how it hurts us, and it hurts me, and it hurts my animals and the unicorns. Think about us in the wildlife, Onceler. Think about it. And remember, people, let's conserve our environment.
Well, wow, that's a pretty good closing remark. I mean, that's really well done. I mean, it's going to be hard to top. Let's see what you got, Onceler. Thank you, Mr. Phelps. I'm going to get to my closing statement. All right. While the Lorax has a valid point about conserving the trees, I will admit it's a valid point. Deforestation is really the better option. While he claims you can't survive without trees, you also can't survive without money. Look at my friend Jay Gatsby. If he isn't rich, there's a lot of prejudice around where he lives. West Egg isn't as rich as East Egg. You know, he had to try really hard to gamble and get money just to be noticed and just to fit into society. If he doesn't have that money, he gets mistreated by other people, and that's not fair. And his businesses won't thrive, his parties won't thrive, and so he needs that money to survive. Yes, I get that air and trees are important, but we can recreate these things. You can't recreate cash, though. Cash is gold, it's money, it's what makes your businesses run. We can't replace that. I've learned from my mistakes that chronic tree cutting down is not a good thing, and I'm willing to replant every tree I cut down in a designated area to help the Lorax and his friends. But that won't stop me from cutting down more trees that I need to make needs and that everybody else needs. So, to conclude, deforestation is really the way to go. Because if we don't cut down trees, we won't have money to live. Thank you.
I better get going now. Take care.
And at this point, I must get going. So, I want to say adios. I'm going to go and cut down some more trees for my Onceler tree business. I better get going. Vroom, vroom. See you all later. Vroom, 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 vroom. Wow, those are two great concluding statements. I mean, we couldn't have asked for two better debaters, two finer points. That was great, and as you saw, they just trailed off, and I see both of their arguments as very valid. It's hard to decide between them. It really is. And so, well, they're gonna be off now, and I'm not gonna be the one to make the decision here. Okay, I'm not gonna be the decider. I want you as listeners, now that you've heard what each of Onceler and the Lorax have to say, I want you to decide what you feel is right. Okay? Maybe you feel in the middle, but think about which one had a stronger persuasive debate in this. And that's kind of where we're going. Alright? So the debate, it's on the table. Do we go with conservation or deforestation? It's up to you to decide. You have to decide which one you prefer, but you should also decide who debated better. That's the question at hand. So I want to thank Onceler and the Lorax for joining in today and sharing our debate. We appreciate this. We hope that we see them next time on the Mr. Phelps Show debate stage. Our show is concluded, at least our debate portion, and we will return to the talk show just after these brief messages. And thank you everyone for watching. It's been great, and remember, you're the decider here, so decide which side you felt was the greatest. Thank you. Thank you for watching the debate stage. Welcome back on the set. So what'd you think of that debate? I thought both candidates did a spectacular job debating with one another. I mean, they had their notes prepared, they knew what they wanted to say, they knew their positions, and they were ready to go. Very professional. You know, they got a little heated, but it was great. And this ultimately comes down to, you know, who used better persuasive techniques, who was great at debating, and how do you put your points together to put in an essay. Well, I'm going to show you that right now. I'm going to show you some pieces to the puzzle based on what we just listened to. We're going to look at that evidence. We're going to look at pros and cons of the issue of deforestation or conservation, look at both sides. And we're going to put together a couple arguments as if it's a big graphic organizer for an essay. So we'll do that momentarily and, you know, just take a good look at it. And after that, we'll have some rap from the Cat in the Hat, Lil Phelps' competitor, or maybe it's Lil Phelps, I don't know, but Cat in the Hat rap with the Lorax. So we'll listen to that after we're done going through how to write an essay and planning for it. Excellent.
All right, so here's the argument outline for the Lorax and conservation. Some of these ideas come directly from the debate. All right, so here is the outline for conservation, what the Lorax represents. A lot of these points come right from the debate between the Lorax and Onceler. So as you can see here, argument position, we're going to support conservation. Conservation is the best option to preserve our wildlife and land. Then I list both pros and cons because I want to look at both sides of the issue. So some of the pros, maintain a stable ecosystem where animals are happy and healthy. You can use natural resources, air from trees, water from rivers and brooks, animals for meat. Less has to be made or produced. And by conserving, we protect our environment and won't have to worry about global climate change, pollution, or any other hazards. Okay, so those are my pros that I developed from the debate, but also just common knowledge. Now, cons, these can either be against your point or they can be counter-arguments. However way you interpret them. Obviously, you're not supporting this view. It's fine, but you need to keep in mind the other side, whether you have a counter-argument or you mention the other argument. It needs to be aware, and you need to acknowledge that because counter-argument is a big part of your argument. So one of the cons, business may need trees, but they shouldn't take every tree. All right, so kind of like a compromise there. Maybe you designate an area where trees can be taken, just to give in a little to the other side and be a little understanding, but keep in mind that, ecosystems still need to thrive. Resources could be artificially made. This is a counter argument, though they aren't the same, and nor are they for everyone. Maybe not the strongest counter argument. I mean, in the movie, in the book of the Lorax, they recreated air. Not necessarily. They probably could do that today in some way, shape, or form, and have, but it's not the same as air from natural resources. So it might not be as strong of a counter argument, but it is one to be noted, and it's there. So, it could be a counter argument. So I listed it as one. And then lastly, builders have a right to take down trees in certain places, but does that make it right? So they may have the written right, but is it right in terms of the environment, in terms of the animals, in terms of other people? Think about it. They could be responsible for any of these hazards if they pursue with taking down so many trees. All right, so that fills out our chart. That starts us off, and we scroll down and think of 2 places you can find sources to support your argument. So I used Einstein, okay? The Lorax referenced him, called him up in the debate. He's ethos here. He would provide insight and statistics to prevent global climate change, which he did. Gave us some statistics. Other places I could look is National Geographic about animal life and habitat. There's other science websites out there that could help. So plenty to think about. And lastly, we have the essay outline. Okay, now I didn't fill all of this out. Obviously, I just did it in parts. I just did the main argument and counter arguments, but it's pretty straightforward based off of the PowerPoint we read. You have a hook, summary, background, claim. I just put the arguments in here. Maintain a stable ecosystem, and then counter arguments. Some trees may need to be taken down, but look to designate an area that won't affect too much wildlife. Keep in mind you only need 1 counter argument. I just put the 3 here just to make it fit for this argument. But this is pretty straightforward. This is you putting all the pieces together and having the final piece to write the essay. Here is the argument outline for deforestation. The argument and position listed is deforestation is essential for businesses to thrive. Okay, so here are the pros listed, pros and cons. And remember, cons aren't necessarily what's always against. It could always be some kind of compromise or just looking at the other side and seeing what the other side tells us and disproving it. So the pros here, trees give us money. Money comes from trees, but money also comes from building and businesses that use trees as resources. Okay, it's a big one. And then some resources can be recreated without trees. New technology comes from tree cutting. So there's a bunch of different things that stem out of tree cutting. If you remember the Lorax book, he said cutting down 1 tree was too slow, so he made a bigger machine that cut multiple trees, and they had a new innovation that showed that tree cutting can lead to more innovations, more resources on the people's end as opposed to natural resources. And then of course they have the right to take down the forests. There's a right there. As long as they follow what's in the law, they can do it, and no intention is meant to harm the animals. Okay, so here's the cons, or looking at the other side. So like animals, builders must adapt to the resources given to them. This one wasn't exactly an opposite of any of the others, but it's still a con that Onceler mentioned in the argument that, hey, builders must adapt, different forests, different resources. And then, of course, you have not all the resources are natural, and natural resources can run out. Okay, so they talked about in the movie making air, here's air, and there's always bottled water, so the natural resources can run out, though they can make these resources. Might not be as good as the natural ones, but something to think about. And lastly, for another con here, is there are rights, but misuse of rights can lead to greater problems like pollution. Builders should be held accountable. So this is one that can kind of go halfway, where, you know, maybe a builder or an entrepreneur like Onceler can say, hey, I have a right to cut down these trees, but I can be held accountable for what I do to the land, you know, and that kind of meets everybody halfway. It shares the responsibility. So something like that could be a great compromise. But again, we're looking at the other side. So after this, we scroll down to places you can find sources to support your argument. Jay Gatsby was mentioned in the debate. He's a billionaire who claims if 20,000 less trees were cut down each year, business revenue would plummet 30% less. Okay, now obviously that's not a real statistic, but you know, it was part of the debate. Can be used just for the sake of practice, but there could be other statistics out here that say relatively the same thing. But of course, Jay Gatsby's a made-up character, so we're playing along with it. And then, of course, you can look at a website, Business Insider, Essentials for Running a Business, you know, something about a business and what the materials are, what the resources are to make that business thrive. So that could always be a good thing. Scrolling down to the outline, again, we'll briefly go over. This is pretty straightforward from the PowerPoint, but these are some things that you could put, and again, these come right from the chart up here for the pros and cons. We're just kind of plugging them in. So supporting argument, trees give us money and businesses need money. Another supporting argument, resources and technology come out of tree cutting. Okay, and then of course I have a counter argument, builders must adapt to the land just like animals do. So you can see that I kind of pulled and put in the arguments that I used for deforestation as my supporting argument. And then counter argument uses some on the other side that we disprove, or some that find a compromise kind of in between. You recognize the other side and you make an argument for it. So that's that. That's getting us looking at this side, and we'll also make sure we look at you know, why conservation is useful as well. So both sides are equally looked at.
Look at that unicorn in its natural habitat. See how it moves so gracefully, so gracefully. It's a wonderful sight, isn't it?
Unicorns are some of the magical creatures that are harmed by hunters and builders and people who ruin our environment. It's time to stop them.
I'm the Lorax. I speak for the trees, and I'm telling you, it's time to save the unicorns. If we don't save them, their magic will disappear throughout the world, and it will become a not-so-friendly place. Unicorns benefit us. Even though you might not see them in the wild, they spread magic on the ground to make it purified. If we keep killing the unicorns and taking away their magic powers and selling them on markets like eBay and Amazon, then we will no longer have this magic in our grass.
To save the unicorns and preserve all wildlife, call 1-800-MAGIC. That's 1-800-MAGIC. Call today and get some free magical unicorn dust. Limited time offer.
I am the Lorax. I speak for the trees. At the far end of town where the grickle grass grows and the wind smells slow and sour when it blows and no birds ever sing excepting old crows is the street of the lifted Lorax. And deep in the grickle grass, some people say, if you look deep enough, you can still see today where the Lorax once stood just as long as it could before someone lifted the Lorax away. What was the Lorax, and why was it there, and why was it lifted and taken somewhere from the far end of town where the grickle grass grows? The old Onceler still lives here. Ask him. He knows. You won't see the Onceler. Don't knock at his door. He stays in his lurkum on top of his store. He stays in his lurkum, cold under the floor, where he makes his own clothes out of muffin moof. And on special dank midnights in August, he peeks out of the shutters, and sometimes he speaks and tells how the Lorax was lifted away. He'll tell you, perhaps, if you're willing to pay.
On the end of a rope, he lets down a tin pail, and you have to toss in 15 cents and a nail in the shell of a great-great-great-grandfather's snail. Then he puts up the pail, makes a most careful count to see if you paid him the proper amount. Then he hides what you paid him in his snuff, his secret strange hole in his gruffless glove. Then he grunts, I will call you, whisper my phone, for the secrets I tell you are for your ears alone. Slup! Down slups the whisper my phone to your ear, and the old Onceler's whispers are not very clear, since they have to come down through a snargly hose, and he sounds as if he's smallish bees up his nose. Now I'll tell you, he says, with his teeth sounding gray, how the Lorax got lifted and taken away. It all started way back, such a long, long time back. Way back in the days when the grass was still green and the pond was still wet and the clouds were still clean and the song of the swummy swans rang out in space. One morning I came to this glorious place and I first saw the trees, the truffula trees, the bright colored tufts of the truffula trees, mile after mile in the fresh morning breeze. And under the trees I saw brown barbaloots frisking about in their barbaloot suits, and as played in the shade and ate truffula fruits. From the rippleless pond came the comfortable sound as of the humming fish humming while splashing around. But those trees, those truffula trees, all my life I've been searching for trees such as these. The touch of their tufts was much softer than silk, and they had the sweet smell of fresh butterfly milk. I felt a great leap of joy in my heart. I knew just what I'd do. I unloaded my cart. In no time at all, I had built a small shop. Then I chopped down a truffula tree with one chop. And with great skillful skill and with great speedy speed, I took the soft tuft and I knitted a thneed. The instant I finished, I heard a gazump. I looked. I saw something pop out of the stump of the tree I chopped down. It was a sort of man. Describe him? That's hard. I don't know if I can. He was shortish and oldish and brownish and mossy, and he spoke with a voice that was sharpish and bossy. Mister, he said with a sawdusty sneeze, I am the Lorax. I speak for the trees. I speak for the trees of no tongue, and I'm asking you, sir, at the top of my lungs. He was very upset as he shouted in puffs, what's that thing you've made out of my truffula tuft? Look, Lorax, I said, there's no cause for alarm. I chopped just one tree. I'm doing no harm. I'm being quite useful. This thing is a thneed. A thneed's a fine something that all people need. It's a shirt, it's a sock, it's a glove, it's a hat, but it has other uses. Yes, far beyond that. You can use it for carpets, for pillows, for sheets, or curtains, or covers of bicycle seats. The Lorax said, Sir, you are crazy with greed. There's no one on earth who would buy that fool thneed. But that very minute, I proved he was wrong. For just that minute, a chap came along, and he thought that the thneed I had knitted was great. He happily bought it for $3.98. I laughed at the Lorax. You poor stupid guy. You can never tell what some people will buy. I repeat, cried the Lorax, I speak for the trees. I'm busy, I told him. Shut up, if you please. I rushed across the room and in no time at all built a radio phone. I put in a quick call. I called all my brothers and uncles and aunts, and I said, listen here, here's a wonderful chance for the whole Onceler family to get mighty rich. Get over here fast, take the road to North Nitch, turn left at Weehawk, and shop right at South Stitch. And in no time at all, in the factory I built, the old Onceler family was working full tilt. We were all knitting thneeds just as busy as bees to the sound of the chopping of the truffula trees. Then, oh, baby, oh, how my business did grow. Now, chopping one tree at a time was too slow, so I quickly invented my super axe hacker, which whacked off 4 truffula trees at one smacker. We were making thneeds 4 times as fast as before, and that Lorax, he didn't show up no more. But the next week, he knocked on my new office door. He snapped, I'm the Lorax who speaks for the tree, which you seem to be chopping as fast as you please, but I'm also in charge of the brown barbaloots who played in the shade in their barbaloot suits and happily lived eating truffula fruits. Now, thanks to your hacking my trees to the ground, there's not enough truffula fruits to go around. And my poor barbaloots are getting all the crummies because they have gas and no food in their tummies. They love living here, but I can't let them stay. They'll have to find food, and I hope they may. Good luck, boys, he cried, and sent them away. I, the Onceler, felt sad as I watched them all go, but business is business, and business must grow, regardless of crummies and tummies, you know. I meant no harm, I most truly did not, but I had to grow bigger, so bigger I got. I biggered my factory, I biggered my roads, I biggered my wagons, I biggered the loads and the thneeds I shipped out. I was shipping them forth to the south, to the east, to the west, to the north. I went right on biggering, selling more thneeds, and I biggered my money, which everyone needs. Then again, he came back. I was fixing some pipes when that old nuisance Lorax came back with more gripes. I am the Lorax! He coughed and he whiffed, he sneezed and he snuffled, he snargled, he sniffed. Onceler! He cried with a cruffless croak. Onceler, you're making such smogulous smoke. My poor swummy swans, why, they can't sing a note. No one can sing who has smog in his throat. And so, said the Lorax, please pardon my cough. They cannot live here, so I'm sending them off. Where will they go? I don't hopefully know. They may have to fly for a month or a year to escape the smog you smogged up around here. What's more, snapped the Lorax, his dander was up, let me say a few words about gluppity-glup. Your machinery chugs on day and night without stop making gluppity-glup. Also sloppity-slop. And what do you do with this leftover goo? I'll show you, you dirty old Onceler man, you. You're glumping the pond with a humming fish hum. No more can they hum, for their gills are all gum, so I'm sending them off. Oh, their future is dreary. They'll walk on their fins and get woefully weary in search of some water that isn't so smeary. And then I got mad. I got terribly mad. I yelled at the Lorax, now listen here, Dad. All you do is yap and yap and say bad, 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 bad. Well, I've got my right, sir, and I'm telling you I intend to go doing just what I do. And for your information, you Lorax, I'm figuring I'm biggering and biggering and biggering and biggering. Turning more truffle trees into thieves, which everyone needs. And at that very moment, we heard a loud whack. From outside in the fields came a sickening smack of an axe on a tree. Then we heard the tree fall, the very last truffle tree of them all. No more trees, no more needs, no more work to be done. So in no time, my uncles and aunts, everyone, all waved goodbye. They jumped into my cars and drove away under the smoke-smothered stars. Now, all that was left beneath the bad-smelling sky was my empty big factory, the Lorax and I. The Lorax said nothing, just gave me a glance, gave me a very sad, sad backward glance as he lifted himself by the seat of his pants, and I'll never forget the grim look on his face when he hoisted himself and took leave of this place through a hole in the smog without leaving a trace, and all the Lorax left here in this mess with a small pile of rocks with one word, unless. Whatever that meant, well, I just couldn't guess. That was long, long ago, but each day since that day I've sat here and worried away through the years while my buildings have fallen apart. I've worried about it with all my heart. But now, said the Onceler, now that you're here, the word of the Lorax seems perfectly clear. Unless someone like you cares a whole awful lot, nothing is going to get better. It's not. So, catch, calls the Onceler. He lets something fall. It's a truffle seed. It's the last one of all. You're in charge of the last of the truffle seeds, and the truffle trees are what everyone needs. Plant a new truffle, treat it with care, give it clean water, and feed it fresh air. Grow a forest, protect it from axes that hacked. Then the Lorax and all of his friends may come back.
Alright, so those raps never get old. I mean, the Cat in the Hat is pretty good there. In any case, let's get cut to the chase. We have another weather report, so let's go down to our friendly meteorologist, Mr. Phelps, for our second weather report.
Better get my umbrella off. Well, welcome everyone. This is not the state I wanted to be in. I'm getting sick. But as you can see, outside, it's not so pleasant. Here is where the grickle grass grows, and the wind smells slow and sour when it blows, and no birds ever sing excepting old crows. Today is an ugly day. It's smoggy the smog and gluppity glump, also sloppity slop. The sky is gray and the conditions are not ideal. This has become a mainstay after years of deforestation and chopping so many trees down. It's not fun. Hopefully we can go back to the way things used to be when the Lorax reigned and there were tons of trees. Well, friends, I think it's time to plant some more truffle trees. I better get going before I get sicker. This has been your weather report for today. I'm getting out of here.
So, now we truly see the effects of deforestation, how bad things can get. We obviously don't want to see more days like this, so let's take care of our environment, you know. Even if you appreciate businesses cutting down trees, we need to do our part in protect the environment as well. Anyway, I'm all out of fun stuff today. This concludes our show. I'm going to get going. It's been great. So I'll see you guys later. Whoa, what's this? A unicorn head? That's creepy. Why would there be a unicorn head here? This must mean we have our next debate topic. Should we be hunting magical creatures? This is creepy. I don't approve of this. Why are we hunting unicorns? You know, they're supposed to be part of conservation and taking care of the land, but, you know, people want to hurt them so that they can get a hold of their magical powers and their horns on their heads, and just not a good thing. Anyway, this is a big crisis here. I'm going to look into this, and I'll see you guys later. Thank you for watching the Mr. Phelps Show with coffee and a random unicorn head. But I better get going. Take care.